Hello, I'm back. I am here and I'm going to do the second part of the demonstration that I started a couple weeks ago for the Penfield Art Association. Just to help you to remember, there's the painting, and I'm going to turn my camera, I think, and show you what the photograph was. This is again on my iPad, and just pretty much straightforward. It's a picture of a nice couple of fields, distant trees, big tree closer to the foreground, and some other miscellaneous stuff close by. So let me tilt back here to my panel and my pastels, and we'll try to get this done today. I'm excited because I kind of sometimes I just don't know how things are going to work out or how they're going to look when they're finally finished. And I had the chance to think about this a little bit. I'm thinking about what I want to do with this from here. Part of what I would like to do is to get more of a rich blue up here in the sky. I want to put a lot more detail into the foreground in those trees, and but I want to maintain the quality of light that I saw in the original photo and in the scene that I saw when I first spotted it. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit and try to make it so you can see the whole thing at the same time. There we are. Okay, so hold on one second. I have a box on the floor and I'm just going to try and maneuver around it and readjust. Okay, so I want to make sure that you can see everything and continue to watch what I'm doing. Alright, so let's get started here. So as I mentioned, I want to get some more rich color into the sky. Right now there's a lot of different colors. I mean, there's blue and there's green and there's pink and there's violet, and they're all beautiful. You probably can't see them on the video just because that's the nature of the beast, but I really want to enrich that color in the sky. I want it to really stand out. So I'm looking at my tray of pastels down here. This one, although I really like this blue, this one's going to be a little too intense, I think. But in all honesty, the only way I'm going to know is if I test it out. So let's give it a shot here. You can see that the pastel itself is kind of dirty. I don't really worry too much about that because most of it is going to rub off. It does rub off on the paper, but then it kind of blends in as I'm doing this. So we'll put a little of this color in there. And that might be a little too strong for what I'm going for. I wanted more of a cool blue, and this is not as cool as I would like it to be. Ooh, this one might work. Let's try this one. That's a little closer, a little bit darker in value than I want to get to, but I'm really not too concerned about it because I can always take a lighter pastel and use that as a blending tool, really, to blend in some of the color that I'm applying to this. So let's see, what have I got here? Yes, I think this is kind of that greenish one I put down there, and that's not a problem. I'm going to use that to blend in that darker color. I kind of like what I'm seeing happening here. It still just might be a little too dark in value. Again, though, a lot of times I can't tell that until I put it on the paper. And that really isn't a problem or anything. I'm just going to have to... A lot of what I do with pastel is kind of a push and pull almost. Testing things out. If I like it, that's great. If I don't, I'll just swap it out and try something else. Ooh, what's this one? This one is kind of like a halfway point between that blue I put down there and that kind of greenish one that I put on top of it. And I kind of like what it's doing here. Definitely a darker value than I originally thought it was going to be. That's not necessarily a bad thing. Let's see. Okay, so I kind of like this blue. I think what I'm feeling is that there might be some little bits of grit in here that are not going to blend well. That's really not a huge issue. I just kind of have to work around that. I do like this blue. Okay, so I'm going to throw some of this around here and see if that'll blend in. Yeah, and it is. It's looking good. I like that. All right, that gives that sky more of a glow to it than it initially had. It livens it up But you can see that it's really kind of easy to blend it. I think what I'm seeing here is there was a line in the paper, and I think that's what I'm seeing. Is that coming through a little bit? Not necessarily a bad thing. It's just something that I'm aware of, and I knew that at the time that I grabbed this sheet of paper, that there was an imperfection in it. And, you know, that's just what it is. It's paper, and no paper is perfect. And that'll still be just fine. All right, good. I kind of like that. Now, what I can do, this is a harder pastel. You can tell by the shape and the smallness of it. This is a new pastel, but it's a nice color, and I like that. Let me see what happens when I use this to blend. Again, a little harder, and that blends in things very nicely. Kind of smooths it right out. Is that what I want? Sure. I go for color more than anything else at this point when I'm doing a painting. And that kind of helps smooth out that kind of imperfection too. That's good. Now, you probably can't see this, but I see there is a lot of texture in the sky, I guess. A lot of different colors and values. And I like the richness that that creates. If it were just blue, that would just be too darn boring for my taste. So I like it that way. Now, I noticed something right off the bat as I was looking at this. I always put a painting that I'm working on where I can see it on a daily basis. And then this one is no exception to that. And I noticed that I'm kind of going downhill. That's not really a huge problem for me, except that that's not what I saw in the photograph. So I do want to change that. I want to try and level out that part of the sky where it meets the trees. And let's just test this green. This one's a little too garish a color. I don't really want something like that. Oh, I put it in the wrong spot. Let's try this one. That one's a little softer. So I noticed in the photo that this part of the trees up along the top of them, that is more green. The shadowy areas is underneath. Which actually works out really well because that purple and blue that I put down there for the shadowy areas is just, it's going to stay there. And I'm just going to put this over the top of it, but only up along the upper part of it. So that's going to help level out this line of trees a little. And I'm applying it in unevenly, I guess that would be a way to put it, so that it doesn't look like it's just a solid mass of color, or in this case, trees. And just kind of giving it a little bit of a lightness, because as I'm sure we all know from looking at trees all our lives, they're not even, they're not perfect, they're just kind of very imperfect what's the word I'm looking for? Imperfect shapes. So there. So now I've evened out that horizon line a little bit. And I'm going to put a little of this over here too, just to continue with that. Okay, so that's cool. All right. Okay, from here, I like where the tree is. I like what the tree looks like. However, it just, at this point, it's too blobby, and I do want to put some details in there. So how am I going to do that? I'm going to go back to my photo. Let's see if I can turn this so you can see it. I have to loosen up there we go. Tripod a little. Okay, so let's go back to the photo. And I'm sorry there's this thing in the way, but it is there and I can't change it right now. All right, let's zoom in a little bit. So if you look at the photo of the tree, you'll see there's some dark areas in here, sort of inside where the branches are and stuff. And there are branches coming that show through the tree with them being lit up on the back side of them. And then lighter values closer toward where I was standing. Down here at the very bottom, you notice that the edge of the grasses kind of shoots up into where the shadows of the tree are, and the shadows are very, very dark. I'm going to zoom right in on them. See if my camera can catch up. Well, maybe I can't, but you can see how dark they are. Very, very dark, almost black. And I'm cool with that. However, I want to make sure that my shadows are not just black. I want them to be more lively than that. And by doing so, I'm going to add color. That's how I'm going to make it look lively. So I'm going to try and get in here with some of my darkest values, a variety of different colors to create excitement in those shadows. Let's see, I've got a little bit of shadow. Speaking of shadows, right there, I'm trying to lift that up so you can see it better. Okay, so let's get some dark values and start putting those in the shadowy areas under this tree. This is a super, super dark green. Like a viridian, only super, super dark. So I'm just gonna throw little bits of that color in there. And I'm gonna throw it up here too. And wherever I want it to be a dark shadow area, that's one of the colors I'll use. I'm gonna set that off to the side so I can grab it again if I want to. This is like a super dark blue. I'll put some of that in there. I'm kind of really just knitting together these dark areas. And I'm not necessarily following exactly what I see in that photo, but I'm just kind of putting them all over the place, just in areas that I think would be kind of interesting for there to be a shadowy area. Let's see, what other colors can I grab here to be exciting? I try to create excitement by doing this. This is a super dark red. I can try some of this in here. See how that looks. Ooh, you know, I see red. I don't know, maybe I'm the only person that does. But I see a lot of red in some of the shadowy areas when I'm out and about. It's probably like an optical illusion or something, but nevertheless, I'm going to throw a little of this down here too. And I'm going to put it up in here too. So all these colors will come together to create a beautiful shaded area in this tree, within the tree branches. Okay, so I kind of like what I'm seeing here. I'm wondering though, is there some other color I could put in there to create a lot of visual excitement? Let's see what I've got. I got a chunk of, this is a dark red too, but it might be a little too light. Let's see. Oh, maybe not. That's not exactly what I was hoping to find, but I found it anyway, so that's okay. Throw a little of that in there too. What I was looking for is more of a blue. I see a lot of blues in shadows too, because I think because of the color of the sky. This color intrigues me. It's not blue and it's not quite purple, and it's probably not dark enough for what I want, but I really like the color, so I might just apply a little of that in a variety of places just to liven it up. It might not be exactly what I want right now, but I may temper it as I go along and change things. I kind of like it actually up here in the upper parts of the tree. Well, we'll just, you know, a lot of this is hit and miss. A lot of it is just a matter of testing things and trying things out. And, you know, so I don't get too attached to things at this point, because I could very easily just, I was going to say ruin it, but that's not really what I want to say. But instead, a lot of times things disappear, some of the things I put in there, but that's really not a problem because new exciting things come along. So in this case, now this is a pretty dark bluish purple, more so than that one I just put down there. And I can take it and go over that lighter purpley blue just to create something a little different. And I'm using the edges, or excuse me, the side of the pastel at this point. I wasn't when I was initially putting down little bits of color, but I am now, because I'm using this stick to blend these colors in a little bit and to soften up those harsher edges. I still like to retain the color though. I still want to retain the excitement of that variety of color that I see. Now, I'm going to have to do something about getting some of the sky in this, because a lot of what I'm seeing in here is the sky. I see little teeny holes where the sky is showing through. And that's exciting stuff. This pastel, if you can tell, or maybe if you can't, it's a sky blue color, but it's darker than the color that I have in here. And that makes it perfect for putting in some sky holes. And I keep referring back to my original photo just as a point of reference so that I can make this. I mean, you know, I could probably draw trees all day long with my eyes shut, but I want it to look like this tree. I don't want it to look like somebody else's tree. This is my tree. I love this tree. I see it all the time. Okay. Now I can't put the sky holes too low. Oops, this one's too low. And you know why? It's because there's a tree line back there. Oh no. What am I going to do? That doesn't belong there. I'm going to correct it, but not just this second. Let me throw a little bit more of this blue sky color in here. The reason I mention that is that I can't see the sky if that's where that tree line is. Okay, so I like that blue. I'm going to leave that aside too. Let me see. So some of these are just a little too low because actually what I would be seeing through there is this line of trees. So I have to go back, grab a green, and correct. And I can correct by just taking a green and wiping out the blue. But let's see, I might put that up a little higher too. And you know, something else that just occurs to me. And a lot of this is I correct myself as I'm going along, but in this area, right through here, the background is not blue at all. It's actually that pink and purple. So, trying to stay true to what I'm doing here, that's way too bright. I'm going to put in kind of a pinky purple. Instead of just a sky color, I'm going to change that into, well, it is the sky color. It's just not like a blue sky color. This is kind of more the color that I see along the horizon. So I try to, you know, as much as I'd like to be super creative and put in all sorts of random stuff, I do tend to stay very close to what I see out there. So I'm going to put in a little bit of this. And that helps me to make it look a little more realistic. And the harder I push, the more pigment I get. So if I'm going to, let's see, I really like that spot. I don't want to put anything there. But if I put a really, really light touch in there, that's fine. But to get a heavier mark, I have to push a little harder. And that you know, that's a cool thing about pastel. They're very versatile and do lots of things. And I'm going to take this purpley pink color and I'm going to mix it in with some of the blue that I had down there as an original sky color so that it matches more of that background sky. Okay. So that to me looks more realistic. Okay. So now I need to work on those leaves, the tree itself. All right. I've got a lot of different values and colors in that greenness of the tree. And sometimes I just grab colors or sticks that just appeal to me for whatever reason. You know, it might be like, oh, here's a nice one. I kind of like the shape of this one in particular. But let's see if it's the right color. Oh, that's pretty close. Okay, I like it. So I'm going to use this stick to blend other colors together. Because as much as I like that zing of that yellowy green, it was a little harsh in areas. But I'll take this instead and I'll put it over the top, and I may change that. So I kind of create new leafy areas by putting in a lighter value. Okay, but I still retain a lot of that dark shadowy area. Okay, so that gives me more of a sense of the volume of the tree, the depth of this tree. I might decide that, you know, this tree needs more shaded areas, more of those dark shadowy places where the, you know, little clumps of leaves are kind of delineating, I guess. So I might put a little of this here and a that there. Never totally satisfied, you know, as much as I love doing this and trying to build the shape of the tree, I think I could do it all day long and start it over again because I enjoy the process of doing this. You probably, I'm going over some of those stronger shadow colors I put in here. This is a new pastel. It's a little harder, and it's a purpley blue color, and it's very versatile. I use this a lot to, whoops, to help me with shadowy areas, the tree trunks especially. Great for that. All right, so I'm starting to see this tree now not just as a big blob. Now it's starting to have more form and more depth to it. I want to find just a plain old green. That's the only way I can describe it. It might do it. To try and get a little bit more of the edginess of the leaves at, where they kind of meet the sky, I guess. This one might be a good choice. I'm not totally sure yet. And I'm not afraid to say, oh no, I don't have the answers. It's okay. Because a lot of times it's just a matter of experimenting and testing things and trying things out to get to what you really want. And besides, with a tree, you know, we all know what a tree looks like, right? But I don't know. Let me think about that for just a minute. All right. Actually, I see more of a bit of a bluish color in here. And I don't want to overdo this, frankly, you know, and I can very easily do that. And it looks like just little bits of blobs of color. But I think you get the idea that a lot of push and play with this. Testing things out, seeing if they work. If they don't work, redo, and just change things up. And that's beautiful, and that's a part of the whole process of pastel. Let's see. One thing I wanted to do here. Was I want to put in some of the tree trunks, the branches of the tree trunks. And as I'm looking at this photo, most of them are very dark. It might have been because it was early morning. I'm not sure. I always test it on this little side of the tape here. So I'm going to take this just to put in some of these darker tree trunk areas, keeping in mind the shape of the tree. Okay, the trunk is going to be here in the middle. Everything else comes out of there. And you know what I see a lot, and it kind of bugs me, but is that some artists don't realize that the tree trunks get narrower and narrower the further the branches get from the tree. So sometimes I see where that's not the case with some of the work that other artists have done. And that kind of makes it look wrong. For lack of another word, it just looks wrong. Okay. Okay, so also in this area there is some lighter values of tree trunk. I guess it must be where the sun is shining through, and it's a little lighter. Now it's not going to be white because they just are, and I'm looking for a color. Hopefully I can find something in here. I want it to be fairly narrow, like a new pastel, but I might not be able to find it. Okay, so I've got pink, and I'm going to just put it in here. That kind of, to me, looks like a tree trunk being hit by some morning light. And right now it looks a little harsh. I'm going to take my finger and just gently tap it to soften that up, because I don't want it to be harsh. In fact, that might be a little too much right there. So that just totally softened that up. Down here, closer to this area where the grass meets the tree, is some little bits of some of the branches of this tree. Well, it's not quite light enough. Let me see. But what I'm seeing is some little bits of leaves that are just catching the sunlight. Not a lot, just little ones. Do you notice the way I left that really strong, bold color there, that yellow? I like that. I'm probably going to leave it. That might be like the focal point. I'm not sure yet. Okay, but I like it. So I'm happy with the tree. I'm happy with the sky. I'm happy with this distant, far-off tree line. Let's see, where are we going to go next? I think that what I'm seeing is that this is capturing really the light of that particular day really pretty well. I think I'm going to put some purple in here just to break up. There's a fairly large mass here, and I just want to kind of break it up a little bit. There's a little bit of a light purple. And that's all I'm going to touch right there. It's just enough to make me know that it's not just a big blob of green stuff. It's soft and it's beautiful. All right, this green, this one that I said is kind of a harsh green, I might put a little of this down here in this shadowy area down here, just to create a little bit of excitement. And I'm also still trying to kind of straighten out this this line a little bit. Not a problem, that's fine. Okay, I kind of like that. Okay, so let's see what we can do now. Okay, so I have to break this down by item, I guess, by what I see in this tree. Not this tree, I'm sorry, in this landscape. I see that this area in the foreground is important to me because those grassy areas that are kind of pushing up into that shaded area need to somehow or other appear. We need to see those because we need to know what we're looking at. So I'm looking for a color. This might be a little too yellow. Oh yeah, way too yellow. How about this one? That was too dark. Thank goodness for that little piece of tape on the side of my paper here to help me. Well, that might work. So I'm going to just take this. I'm just going to pull up and into the shaded area here. And by doing that, I am creating the illusion of grass. I might have to go a little lighter than what I have here because I don't think it's very visible to you guys as viewers. So let me try something a little lighter so you can see it. I just love this feel of this stick, so I'm going to try this one. Okay. This color in particular is, I mean, it's green. They're all green. But it's a little bit lighter, so you should be able to see where the grasses are that are going to come up into that shadowy area. And I'm kind of correcting too because I was off a little bit when I applied like the underpainting. It was a little too heavy down there. Okay, so I kind of like what I'm seeing there. Now I have this cool trick I'm going to show you that is just such a neat thing. I don't even remember who showed me this trick, but let's say there's some really strong branches or I don't know, weeds or something showing through here, and I want to take my pastel and roll it up right there so that it's not just that soft edge of the grass anymore. Now I'm seeing little twiggy, branchy things. I'm going to zoom in so you can see this as I'm just rolling my pastel. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in. This is just a cool little trick, I guess. Okay, so I got my pastel, and I'm actually holding it so that the edge of the pastel is right on the paper, and I'm going to roll it up. Ooh, look at that cool mark. Here's another one. And yet another. The cool thing is that the